Welcome, everyone, to today's Wellbeing Lightning Talk. These unprecedented times find us in the midst of a well-being crisis that's occurring around the globe. Happening in lockstep with this well-being crisis is the unprecedented Great Resignation, a phenomenon that our Achievers Workforce Institute predicted in our 2021 Engagement and Retention Report, based on the data we saw coming out of the business arena even as far back as early 2021. Well, today we're going to look at the intersection of these well-being and job commitment crises and help you understand how to tackle this perfect storm. I'm Dr. Natalie Baumgartner, and I'm the Chief Workforce Scientist at Achievers, the world's only truly science-driven employee experience technology company dedicated to creating solutions that change the way the world works. As for me personally, I'm basically a big culture and engagement nerd. Over the past couple of decades, my work's been dedicated to really using engagement science to improve the lives of people at work. And I'm so grateful to have an opportunity to bring research-based insights and best practices to life here at Achievers, where we have a deep commitment to improving the employee experience through data and science at every step. Before we launch into our well-being research and insights, I just wanted to share a quick word about the Achievers Workforce Institute, where the research we'll review today is conducted. In my nerdy role, I have the great privilege of overseeing the Achievers Workforce Institute, which is the home inside Achievers for our data scientists, workforce science researchers, and employee experience experts. It's really here that we ensure that everything we deliver to the business arena, from our thought leadership to our technology, that it's all rooted in rigorous science that truly makes people's lives better. Speaking of science, let's dive in. Now, if you're a data geek like me, you may be wondering where the findings and insights I'm going to share with you come from. The Achievers Workforce Institute conducts a number of research studies throughout the year, and last quarter we surveyed nearly 3,000 people, a mix of both HR leaders and general employees, to examine how they were experiencing and addressing well-being inside their organizations. So let's take a look at what we learned through our research and what our findings mean for your organization. I want to begin by putting a fine point on what you surely know, either firsthand or by observation. We are in the midst of an unprecedented well-being crisis. Our data show that only 1 in 5 employees report feeling a strong sense of physical and mental well-being, with even fewer saying that they feel supported in effectively managing their well-being. The vast majority of people in our workplaces are clearly struggling. They are not feeling well. And this lack of well-being has profound implications for both organizations and individuals. One of the most striking implications of a workforce struggling in these ways is the powerful relationship between well-being and turnover, with the Great Resignation. Specifically, employees who say their employer does not support their well-being are more than twice as likely to regularly job hunt. As we review more of our findings and examine some of the key drivers of well-being, remember that when executed successfully, well-being drivers function as powerful tools to reduce attrition. Our second major takeaway was that of a striking HR employee disconnect when it comes to well-being. Almost half of HR leaders reported that they believe their organization effectively supports employee well-being, while less than a quarter of employees surveyed said the same. In a nutshell, we have a situation around the globe where HR leaders believe they're checking the right boxes to ensure employee well-being, but employees, they simply aren't receiving what they need. Now, we believe there are 2 phenomena in play related to this disconnect, one tactical and one strategic. In terms of tactics, we believe many organizations around the globe are experiencing a communication breakdown. You know, the average knowledge worker receives over 120 emails a day, and this rise in digital fatigue from being constantly inundated with IMs, and Slack, and other notifications, it's really made it increasingly difficult to get the attention and the mind share of employees. But tactical limitations alone, they don't account for this lack of alignment. We believe the most fundamental reason for this disconnect is that these well-being programs, tools, and services were implemented without sufficient employee input. We'll talk in detail about employee input in a moment, as it remains the most important tool for overcoming this disconnect. Taking our insights together, there's simply no question that we must be attending to the well-being of employees in a more informed and impactful manner. So, what, you may be asking, can you do to drive well-being inside your organization? Well, according to our data, there is one tool that clearly stands above the rest. At the top of the list of powerful tools is one that's readily available to every one of you, and that's the high impact tool of recognition. Employees recognized just once a week are twice as likely to say that they feel a strong sense of well-being at work. Twice as likely. That is a powerhouse finding, and it confirms that recognition is truly a protective factor for well-being. We'll look at recognition in more detail in a moment, so stay tuned for 3 key areas of recognition that have a positive impact on well-being. Okay, with those key research findings in mind, let's explore the specific actions you can take to improve employee well-being for your employees. We're going to take a look at 3 action areas, including recognition, with steps that you can put to work to drive well-being inside your own company. Our first action area is support. Our analyses show that support is one of the most important aspects of well-being. Employees who believe their organizations do a good job supporting employee well-being are far more likely to report higher levels of both physical and mental health. In fact, there are 3 types of support that all correlate with well-being, starting with organizational support. Now, when I refer to organizational support, I'm talking about the policies and processes organizations must have in place to help employees live their best lives, both at work and in their personal time. This ranges from table stakes support services and tools like health and dental benefits, employee assistance programs, and paid leave, and also higher order supports that promote better work-life alignment, mindfulness, and so on. It's important to note that organizations must ensure they're communicating about these offerings. It's not enough to simply have these benefits available. Employees need to know they exist and understand how to access them when they're needed. The second type of support needed by employees is manager support. Here we ask participants to respond to the statement, "My manager supports me in balancing work and personal demands," which again strongly correlated with higher well-being outcomes. Maintaining a healthy and sustainable mix of work and personal activity in one's life, it is not easy, but it is fundamental to well-being. And having a manager that supports success in this regard, it's truly game-changing. The Achievers Workforce Institute Manager Empowerment Research from late 2020, it outlined a simple but really powerful framework to clarify the ways in which managers must comprehensively nurture their team members. In it, we identify 4 factors that contribute to manager effectiveness: contact, recognition, coaching, and professional development. We must empower managers, educate them, train them, coach them to deliver each of these 4 factors to ensure they're having a strong and positive impact on their teams. Supported managers are better equipped to support their teams, and without that foundational work, the whole system collapses. Now, the final type of support I wanted to speak to is colleague or peer support. In our research, we asked participants whether they felt they were able to receive support from colleagues when needed, which speaks to the extent to which individuals feel they have a support structure around them that they can reach out to in times of need, whether it's professional or personal. Support is clearly a powerful action area to empower well-being. So now we'll take a closer look at another action area that we touched on briefly a few moments ago: recognition. When we asked participants in our study how often they're recognized, we found that those recognized in the last week were twice as likely to say they have strong feelings of well-being. What's more, organizations with a formal recognition platform consistently outperformed those without one when it came to well-being outcomes. So, what are the criteria of a powerful recognition? Well, the first one I already mentioned, that's frequency. The Achievers Workforce Institute research has demonstrated over and over that organizations need to aim for a minimum of one recognition per employee per month to effectively move the needle on engagement. Now, I know to some that may sound high, but we have found that for most organizations, once they focus on recognition frequency as an objective, monthly recognition is a realistic and a manageable goal. The next criteria is recognition quality, because not all recognition is created equal. Sometimes when people hear about recognition frequency, they have this image of participation trophies and meaningless appreciation, but that's not meaningful recognition. In fact, vapid recognition helps no one, and it can actually be demotivating. So what does meaningful recognition look like? Well, we've identified 4 criteria that contribute to meaningful recognition: specific, timely, public, and values aligned. To be truly impactful to the receiver, a recognition should be specific. It should include some detail regarding the effort and the intent of the individual, making them feel known and uniquely valued. Meaningful recognitions are also timely. The sooner they're delivered after the behavior occurs, the greater the impact of the recognition. And recognitions are typically experienced as more meaningful when they're publicly shared. Now, that doesn't mean that every single person wants to be called up on stage and have their virtues listed for a crowd. In fact, that sounds like an introvert's nightmare. However, sharing a recognition with the receiver's manager, we know amplifies the impact by making it clear that the recipient is having contributing beyond their team. And finally, recognitions are more meaningful when they are values aligned. When it comes to recognition, research shows that what gets recognized gets repeated. So by aligning your recognition with the values you wish to promote inside your organization, you help to ensure continued values aligned behavior. Which brings us to the final factor that contributes to effective recognition: the benefit of having a technological infrastructure in place to enable employees to easily call out the good work they see being done around them. As I mentioned earlier, we found that when employees report having a recognition platform at their company, they're almost twice as likely to say their company supports employee well-being, and more than twice as likely to say they receive recognition for participation in well-being initiatives. There's just no doubt that technology can elevate and amplify the powerful impact that recognition has on both employee well-being and on overall engagement. Which brings us to our third and final area of well-being action, which we call ask plus action: the key steps in continuous communication or a feedback cycle. Simply put, it refers to the power of action being taken on input provided, and research shows that this process is key to closing that HR employee disconnect that exists in the well-being arena. Because we know that while 1/3 of HR leaders say their organization is great on taking action at employee feedback, less than 1/5 of employees agree. It's just another area where HR can inadvertently miss an opportunity to involve and to engage their people. The first step in this process is the gathering of feedback, which is all about asking your employees how they feel. It's about understanding their needs and what drives them. You'll want to include open-ended questions to really get advice from employees, along with other questions that are aimed at supporting managers or guiding senior leadership. Once that input is gathered, it's on to step 2, taking action, and action is key. In fact, our research shows that there's no such thing as survey fatigue, only inaction fatigue. Employees will continue providing feedback and insights as long as they feel heard and valued, which means seeing action taken on their input. One of the key parts of taking action is to communicate what that action is. Even if it turns out that you can't do something to solve a problem, such as stress caused by the pandemic, saying, "We heard you, we can't do anything right now, but we're going to support you in other ways," that goes a long way to ensure that people feel heard and valued. Okay, let's move on to the third and final step now: the process of instilling a continuous cycle of ask plus action. The goal here is to have regular feedback coming in and to quickly take action on that feedback and to communicate to close the loop. The best people to guide our efforts to address employee well-being are the employees. So we must regularly check in to see if our efforts are making a difference or if they need to be course corrected. Support, recognition, and action. Three factors to leverage to ensure that you're attending to the well being of the people inside your organization. Focusing on positively addressing the well being crisis that's impacting employees around the world reaps benefits for the people that make up your organization, helps them to be successful, and it enhances the ultimate performance of your business. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today, exploring the incredibly important topic of well being at work. On screen, you'll see a link to the Achievers Workforce Institute Wellbeing Report, as well as where you can connect with me on LinkedIn. Until next time, go out there and get your workforce nerd on.